It's kind of a niche video topic, but it's something I wanted to talk about because I feel really strongly about it. I loved Dallas's trade for Quentin Grimes. I think it got overshadowed because they also then went out and got Klay Thompson, but I think Grimes was such a good acquisition for this team because I'm a Knicks fan, so I watched a lot of Quentin Grimes during his time in New York, and there was a time when he looked like an untouchable piece of New York's future. If we go back a couple years to the 2022-23 season, Grimes started 66 games, shot 38% from three on nearly 6 attempts a game, was such a great defender. He looked like such a great future 3-and-D role player star, was such a big part to New York's playoff success that year where they beat the Cavs in 5 games, take Miami to 6 games. He looked like such an invaluable piece to that team, like a blossoming 3-and-D guard, the type of role player every team covets. And then, unfortunately, this past year, didn't look as good, shot below 40% from the field, lost his starting spot to Dante DiVincenzo, then he got traded to Detroit, played 6 games, then was out for the year, didn't play well in those 6 games, shot less than 20% from 3, and then his season was over because he had an injury in January that he needed to manage, and so he was just out for the rest of the year after getting traded to Detroit. So his stock definitely seems low, but at the same time, there's still so much to like about him. A, because he's only 24 years old, just turned 24 years old, so you could make a very clear argument that his best days are still ahead of him. You like that we've seen high-level winning basketball out of him. Like, I think that's a question you always have with young guys is, can they contribute not just at a high level individually, but can they contribute to winning? And we've seen that from Quentin Grimes when he helped the Knicks to the playoffs 2 years ago. Again, he was the starting 2 guard. He earned that role, and nobody questioned it. He was the perfect fit, a guy who didn't need the ball, who can spot up from 3, but who could also attack closeouts. And so I think that version of him is still in there somewhere. And what's a great way to help find it, and this is the third reason I like this move, he gets to now play off Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You want to talk about 2 guys who can make life easier for a shooter. It's one of the reasons why people like that they went out and signed Klay Thompson. Like, the amount of open looks those 2 creators are going to generate for Quentin Grimes, it's going to be the perfect opportunity for him to rediscover his rhythm, because last year was very ugly. It wasn't great, even when he was getting time in New York, but then after going to Detroit, it was a whole mess. But there's definitely, there is a trajectory for Grimes that I think was really promising. Just because I think it took a dip this past season, that doesn't mean that he won't, change it and start to go back up. And I really think that's such a great move for a Mavericks team, that they have the creators, but they need the guys around the creators. They have the big man, but they need the spot-up shooters around those guys. That was such a big problem, and why they lost the finals is when Luka and Kyrie were doubled and when they passed out, those guys just weren't hitting shots. So you add Klay Thompson, that's obviously great, but I think Quentin Grimes was such a great acquisition, and the fact that it only cost him Tim Hardaway Jr., who I think was a solid player at times for them, but was also out of the rotation, in part because he couldn't really defend. Grimes, I think, doesn't have that issue. I think Grimes is a great point of attack defender, really quick on his feet, and to acquire him for Tim Hardaway Jr. and a few second-round picks, I think was such a great buy low move, because I got frustrated with Grimes at times on the Knicks. He lacked aggressiveness at times by the end, but I still think there's so much promise for him because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen what a great Quentin Grimes could look like, and it really is great. It really can be so valuable for a team, and I think that's doubly true for a Mavericks team that has the pieces but needs the surrounding supporting cast, and I think Grimes can really thrive in that role, assuming he gets the opportunity and stays healthy.